subject matter God has had on my mind now for about 2 or 3 weeks. And it comes from the scripture in Galatians 6 and 9 that tells us not to be weary in well doing. And it says, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. We shall reap if we faint not. But for the past few weeks, God has had me focused on the words in due season. Now, as I said last week, there are some who get very romantic and very charismatic, and they'll say things like there are actually 5 seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall, and due season. Well, that's not altogether true. That's not altogether true. God has 4 seasons. And listen, when God establishes something, he gives it a system of sustainability. He gives it a way to remain. He gives it a way to grow, and he gives it a way to thrive. And so when God created the seasons, he created 4. Winter, spring, summer, fall. Seasons are cycles of time. This is the thing that God focused me on that I thought was very interesting about seasons. And he said with each season, it commands something, and we comply to that command. For instance, when winter comes, we pull out our coats. Winter doesn't ask us, you think you need a coat? No, it just gets cold. And we know winter is going to be cold, so we prepare for the coldness. The same thing with summer. We know there's going to be heat. Those seasons have certain aspects or certain characteristics to them that dictate certain behavior. We know automatically when the seasons are going to change, how we're going to change with it. And so spiritually speaking, this is what God is letting us know when he talks about when our seasons come due. There are things that God has planted in us. There are certain cycles of time when there should be a harvest coming due from that. Yeah. We are missing our seasons because we're not understanding that we are in a cycle of time. We're wasting time. We're sitting here waiting on God like we're waiting on a bus. And there should be things that we're doing in each season that's yielding something. It's not that God is not giving to us. It's that we are not understanding that we have something to give out in this season. So we keep missing the seasons. Come on, somebody. If you're going to be successful, and if you're going to execute those things that God has given us, then the first thing we have to understand is, well, God, what is going on in our seasons that we should be doing? We don't ask God that question.
That's right.
We just sit and wait. And God's sitting there saying, what are you sitting here for? What are you waiting for? Our issue is not that we have to sit here and wait for something to fall out the sky on us. Our issue is discovering what is it that God has placed in me that is useful for this season. Because if we understand that, reaping would be no trouble. If we understood what was planted in us, we would have no problem getting the fruit from that. So there's fruit that's been lost. The one thing I want us to focus on for just a few minutes, and then we're going to end this session, we're going to talk about the potential that each season gives us. Our potential. Our potential. We taught this before, and one of the things that God gave me as a revelation, it's been about a year ago now, and he said potential needs 2 things for it to be realized. He said, number 1, it needs opportunities. It says opportunities expose our potential. One of the things, if we can't recognize opportunities, then our potential will never be exposed to us. You show me somebody who don't know they got potential, and I'll show you somebody that has missed opportunities. I will show you a perfect example of a waster. Because according to the word, wasters are those, it's not that they don't have vineyards, I'm paraphrasing, but according to Proverbs, the waster is the one that doesn't work his vineyard. Mm-hmm. He lets it get overgrown. Okay. He lets it get broke down. Okay. He lets things grow up in there that's not part of the fruit process. Mm-hmm. They don't take, they're too lazy to weed it out. Come on up in here, somebody. Yes. And so therefore, there are opportunities, but because you have the mindset of the waster, you are wasting those opportunities. Yes. Opportunities are there exposed to you, but because you have the mindset of a waster, the opportunities get missed. Yes. How do wasters talk? What is the language of a waster? Yes. Well, a waster are those who will sit and talk about how they have gotten too old to do something now. Mm-hmm. If God is giving you time on earth, then you got something to offer the earth. Come on up in here, somebody. If you go back in the scripture, it was when those men got old, by our standards are old, that God began to show enough use them. God can use the young just like he can use the old. He can use the old just like he can use the young. Your age has nothing to do with your potential. If you got potential, you're not too old to go back to school. You're not too old to start another career. Come on up in here, somebody. It's up to you as to whether you're going to have the mindset of a pursuer or a waster. Come on, somebody. Wasters are the ones that want to find an excuse not to do what God has said do. Come on, give God a hand praise. The second thing God made me to understand about potential, listen to this close. Potentials need challenges. Yes. He says that challenges unlock our potential. Yes. Come on up in here, somebody. Yes. Opportunities expose it, but you need a challenge to unlock it. Right. We'll never know what we can do, what we made of, what we can accomplish without a challenge. Everything ain't going to come easy. Everything worth having, sometimes you got to fight for it. Come on, somebody. And so therefore, if we are too complacent and too lackadaisical to want to meet a challenge, we'll never understand our potential. Everybody that you see walking around acting like they don't know nothing, I promise you, they either don't want to seize an opportunity because they're lazy and they wasters, or they too afraid to fight. Oh, my. Because they don't want to use their power and bring themselves under subjection. That's the one thing that a challenge will do that will upset folks. It makes them have to come under subjection to the decisions that they made. They got to go back and clean some stuff up now. And rather than clean it up, I'd rather just give up. Come on up in here, somebody. So therefore, all of that potential that's in them stays under lock and key. But when you learn how to meet a challenge, it will unlock all the potential in you. Come on up in here, somebody. People who have become great successes had to learn how to maneuver through a failure, had to learn how to maneuver through pain, had to learn how to maneuver through folks talking about them, through folks sucking their teeth at them, through people talking about, that person about halfway crazy, who they think they are, thinking they can do all of that. That has nothing to do with what God has placed in you. He has given us all potential, but one of the things God will never do, he will never interfere with what he gave you. You have to learn how to meet a challenge. Come on, sometimes the opportunities that we are waiting to come are coming through the challenges that we're facing. Those things that you figure, I don't know enough, I'm talking to myself right now. Those things you figure, I don't know enough. Those things, this thing's so overwhelming because I don't have enough know-how. Those are called challenges. But the one thing I do have going for me, God promised he'd never leave me or forsake me. He promised that anything I asked for, he would do for me as long as I was faithful to him. I don't need to know a whole lot. I don't need to have all of that. All I need to know is God got my back. He'll unlock my potential just because I'll meet the challenge. If I got to listen, I know some people they figure this is a cuss word. I may have to humble myself and go ask some folks that I really don't want to ask for some help. But if it go unlock my potential, I'm coming to ask you. I may have to humble down, it seems, to some people who don't like me and I know they talked about me. But if it go unlock my potential, I'm coming. Come on up in here, somebody. The message for this week is understand your potential, seize your opportunities, and face your challenges. God bless you till next week.